So now I'm going to show how to create what's called indexing notches on the bottom of the cast. We have our maxillary mandibular cast here. What indexing notches are is they're little notches, or in this case it'll be triangular notches, that are placed on the bottom of the cast that help to index or position the cast onto the mounting stone if it ever becomes dislodged. It does not help to retain or stick the cast to the stone. I'm showing the measurements of those notches. I've drawn them in pencil here. They're about 15 millimeters long by about 10 millimeters wide, and they'll be roughly 5 millimeters deep into the stone. They need to be big enough so that the stone can get into it, and the stone on the mounting stone side will have a nice shape to fit into. So I've drawn the last one on there. To initially start making the indexing notches, I'll use a handpiece with a burr, and I will create a groove inside of where I've drawn those lines. It's about 5 millimeters deep, maybe 4 millimeters deep, and do that around each of the areas. Some people would just use a handpiece like this to make the indexing notches. I'd recommend you shape them like I'm going to show you here, to be a little more defined as far as the sides and the shape of the notches, so that when the mounting stone forms into those, it'll form a nice distinct shape. It's kind of hard to understand what these are for until you see them used. I don't know if I'll make a video of this, but hopefully at some point I'll show you how these indexing notches are used when the casts separate from the mounting stone. Once I've placed those initial little notches in there with the drill, then I'm going to go with a lab knife, and I'm going to define the shape of these indexing notches to make them a nice triangular notch. So I make a line down the center and shape the sides to make them nice and flat, following the line as close as I can. Those lines and the shape that I've drawn on there aren't necessarily critical in their size and shape. They can be shaped and sized a little bit differently. They just need to be big enough to hold the stone. I think 15 millimeters by 10 millimeters by 5 millimeters is a good shape. And I've just drawn those lines to help to guide me as I'm making these. You can kind of see how I'm using the lab knife. You have to be very careful when you're doing this, because it does take quite a bit of force to cut the stone, and you don't want to slip and accidentally stab yourself or cut yourself. So you kind of see how that's starting to be shaped. That one's almost done. I'll go ahead and move to the next ones. Kind of speed through this. Again, I'll carve very distinct lines and shapes on them. I want the walls to be relatively flat. I want a nice line down the center. So that's like a keyway, and the two pieces will lock into each other. That's kind of what they look like when they're finished. If you're doing it correctly, your finger will probably get a little sore, and that's how you know you're doing it right. We'll move on to the mandibular cast and do the same thing. Or the maxillary, just the other cast. You may not have to index every single cast that you do, but there will be some casts that you'll want to put an index in because you'll intentionally separate the cast from the mounting stone, and you may want to put it back together in the exact same position. So I'm just showing how these are created, hopefully explaining a little bit what they're used for. And if you don't understand them entirely, ask some questions to faculty members or to myself, or look up some information in your textbooks, and hopefully they'll become more clear as time goes on why we put these indexing notches in some of our casts. Again, you may not use them on every cast, but there will be instances where you'll want to put these in if you intentionally plan on separating your cast from your mounting stone. I do 3 of them on each one, just like on the legs of a table. It takes a three-legged stool to be stable. You could do more if you wanted to, but I think a minimum of 3 will allow the cast to be stabilized.